It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I wanted to quickly talk about a DrussNBubba clip here that really captures the idea that solo queue really is not the problem, and I wanted to kind of show you guys what is being stated so that you guys can kind of see another perspective on the solo queue discussion, and then I was going to kind of give my thoughts on it as well. If you want to watch the original video, it is linked in the description. And this was actually recommended to me by one of you guys in the Discord community. So if you want to go ahead and suggest videos for discussion, you can go ahead and join the Discord with the link in the description. Scroll down the rules and obviously read them, except with the knife emoji at the bottom, and you can speak with the rest of us.
Solo queue, something that would have been completely different if you had access to Discord. Not a lot of things. Like, not a lot of things. You know which hex perks they are. You know how to look for hex perks. You know what perks to run to find the hex perks. For example, you know what BT is. You know how much progress each gen has based on which survivor's working on it and where. These are all things you have access to in solo queue. You have game sense to understand who should come for the save, who should do this, who should do that. This is just something you learn by getting better. It's got nothing to do with solo queue, especially if you're just gonna rage quit anyway. Like, that's just you being bad at survive, that's just you coping. That's just you being a crybaby. Like, DCing against make your choice, I can't be asked.
So that right there is an interesting perspective, and that's what really what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I really wanted to touch on what Druss was kind of going on about within the particular clip, because obviously there is a couple things to touch on when talking about this particular topic, and this touches on a lot of things that I've discussed in the past. One of those things obviously being that solo queue really isn't the biggest problem with matchmaking as a survivor, right? Because at the end, as Druss had mentioned, there's a lot of things that are available to you when you are playing in solo queue. Now, it is not to say, at least from like where I'm coming from, it's not to say that like solo queue just miraculously gets easier, but at the end of the day, it does boil down to what we in the business call a skill issue, right? And when it comes down to it, right, everybody can get better at playing the game or can get better at whatever they're doing. That is something that is possible. That is something that it should really be normalized within the DVD community and the culture. And I notice it a lot more within like killers, like the killer sort of content. Like a lot of killer content, at least that I've seen, has to do a lot with education, has a lot to do with trying to learn, has a lot to do with trying to get better with your characters, because I do think that a lot of killer content is just sort of focused on that. I do think that it is probably like one of the most fundamental things about playing the side, really, because every killer is so vastly different. You're able to learn so many unique things about these characters, and a good example that I've had recently definitely has to do with Billy, right? And I had avoided picking Billy for a very long time. I did find Billy to be quite fun when I would pick him up in 2v8, or like when I have like played him on occasion. I thought it was like pretty fun. The sort of play style, like he's always on the move, he's always like right in your face pretty much all the time, and it was always really interesting to kind of see the curves and things like that. And for a long time I had avoided it. I have avoided trying to play the character. I have avoided trying to basically like just take the plunge, and I just recently decided I would do it, right? I would actually just take the chance, and it has become one of the most fun experiences that I've had on the game in a very long time. Like, I don't think there has been a more fun killer for me besides like Billy for some reason. It just like the brain chems that you're getting from like landing a nasty curve is just like, it's just like unmatched. I can't even begin to explain like how that even happens. But it definitely does, you know, and it's very interesting to say the least as to how that sort of comes out, right? And the fact of the matter is that this should be applied to, you know, either side. Like if you're playing survivor, or if you're playing killer, you know, at the end of the day, learning should be something to strive for. So learning should be something that we should be looking to do. And I'm not really sure why it's not like more normalized within like the DBD culture. I do think it should be. I can look at Behavior's like recent video that they had created to give tips on the new Vecna. I do think that that's something that really should be looked at, right? I think that that's a really good example of like what really should be done by the devs, and I think that that's something that I would hope that would get replicated in the future, because it's such a good idea to create these videos to help, you know, people that are trying to learn, and sort of allow people that are struggling to actually have a resource from directly from the developers to say, here's how you can counter the thing that we made. And touching back on the whole solo queue situation, I do think that when it comes down to it, Druss is actually right about that. Like, he really is saying that like there's a lot of things that are in the game already, in the base game, that exist that you can definitely use, especially within the solo queue space, to make it a lot better for you, right? Like the HUD exists, obviously, like you're able to see who's on the gen, and if you have another perk for it that's not even within the base game, but just an additional perk slot, just you can definitely see where your teammates are usually. You know, that is the thing. There's a lot of resources as well, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, whether it be yourself or your teammates, like there's somebody in there that maybe needs improvement, and that in itself is perfectly fine. That is a-okay to be the case. I think that's perfectly fine to have. And that's probably why we see a lot of, like, you know, conflicting opinions, and why we see like a lot of things like within the DVD space that are, you know, very full of negativity and things like that. It's because of the fact that there is just a lot of refusal from a lot of players to try to improve at things. And I think it's applicable to both ends. I've mentioned it many times, and this is why on both sides of the spectrum there is people that need to learn how to play. I've even created like a killer course that I've been adding to pretty frequently to try to give killer players resources so that they can improve with their characters, improve with their fundamentals, that are literally submitted by you guys, so that you guys can all help each other learn from each other, basically, within the community. And even more so than that, obviously, is how much I talk about other creators that are also going around and showing how to play Survivor as well. And I mention those creators from time to time as well to use as resources to learn from, because those are important things as well, especially within the Survivor side, because at the end of the day, if you know, both sides should be striving to be better. You know, I kind of look at it like a fighting game. Like, your opponent being better than you is going to show you a lot about what you're probably missing, and probably going to show you a lot more about yourself, and you might surprise yourself with how good you get at certain things. So what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things is probably the next question that we probably have. And at the end of the day, I do agree with Druss on that. I've spoken about solo queue and how it could be improved previously as well. I've always, like, you know, like, especially another creator had actually mentioned the idea of like a walkie-talkie kind of thing that can be like charged with like the gens or something like that, potentially, which is an interesting concept. And it does allow for, you know, like not literally voice chat, but at least have like some kind of like wheel for call outs. That has also been mentioned before, and stuff like that. So I think there's like different ways that it could be done. There's different ways that these things could happen. And it's really just depending on what Behavior really wants to do. They have mentioned, I think previously, that they really don't want to have voice chat. At least I don't exactly remember what the reasoning was, but I do remember that they were pretty much against that idea, which you know, just judging by, you know, what the, you know, community has done in the past. I mean, we've seen, even with one of my favorite ideas that I've seen Behavior ever do, was to have unlockable rewards for these like licensed characters. So Bubba actually had like masks you can unlock, like depending on which survivors that you eliminated in a match, right? And then I thought that was such a unique concept. And unfortunately, because, you know, we can't have like nice things because, you know, the bad apples ruin the bunch kind of thing, you know, we had people that decided to weaponize it and use it in a very you could say not safe way, you could say. So because of that, we missed out on a really like fantastic concept, and we probably won't ever get anything like it again. And you would think it's such a cool concept, it's such a cool idea to have like literally additional cosmetics that you can unlock, which other games do that. I mean, we could even look at like something like Apex Legends, Fortnite as well, are two examples of like online service games that have options for you to unlock things, like, you know, on top of what you've received. Like we have like the heirloom skins on Apex, and then there's even been like additional styles you can unlock on even Fortnite. They've done that too. And it's cool. It's like you get an additional bonus for just like playing the game and having that skin. So it's like it's more special and more customizable. And unfortunately, because of that, we're probably not gonna get anything like it in DBD. You know, at least within that. So it's like unfortunate. And with that like being like I guess you could say a really big deal, you know what I mean, especially, you know, when trying to add things into this game, I don't imagine that we're ever gonna see voice chat because of that, because there really is a lot of those bad apples that kind of ruin the bunch, unfortunately. So with that being said, I mean, let me know your guys' thoughts, of course, like what you think of the topic at hand, and just, yeah, leave a like, comment, let me know, maybe subscribe as well. And if you want to really support the channel, you can consider becoming a member on YouTube or Patreon, or even subbing on Twitch to have your name right off. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off our members from Patreon: Pro King 101, YouTube members: Cargan Falcon, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Cozy Bozy, Theo Endire, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. And for the Twitch, we have Final Girl Bunny, Leona Art, Zazabu, Evil Blade, Danica, Pro Vader, Cake is a Road, Zeneron, Ginsburg, Mr. Morik, Kevin, Zero Mocker, Ashai Boo, and Gryffindor. Appreciate you guys supporting. Really means a lot. If you want to become a member, you can go ahead and join through Patreon or YouTube members, or even sub on Twitch. See you guys in the next one.